You pull away, slowly at first. You stop texting back as fast. You cancel plans you once would have kept. And then one day you realize you haven't had a real conversation in days, maybe weeks. You tell yourself you just need space, that you're tired, that people are exhausting. But something is happening inside your brain that you don't fully understand yet. And by the time you finish this, you will. Humans are wired for connection the way lungs are wired for air. This isn't a metaphor, it's neuroscience. When you stop talking to people, truly stop, your brain doesn't simply rest. It begins to change, structurally, chemically, in ways that can quietly unravel your sense of reality, your emotional regulation, and even your ability to think clearly. Researcher John Cacioppo at the University of Chicago spent decades studying what social isolation does to the human body and mind. What he found wasn't just that loneliness feels bad. It was that loneliness literally rewires the brain toward threat. Your nervous system starts treating solitude like a predator, and it responds accordingly. Here's what happens first. Within just a few days of reduced social contact, your cortisol levels, the body's primary stress hormone, begin to rise. Your brain's threat detection center, the amygdala, becomes more reactive, sounds sharper, expressions harder to read. You start misreading neutral faces as hostile. A friend's short reply that once meant nothing now feels like rejection. Your mind is not being irrational. It is doing exactly what evolution trained it to do. Thousands of years ago, being cut off from your tribe wasn't a lifestyle choice. It was a death sentence. So your brain sounds every alarm it has. The problem is that the alarm never turns off. It just gets louder. Now here's the part that surprises most people. Isolation doesn't just make you feel more anxious. It makes you less capable of handling anxiety. A 2020 study published in Nature Neuroscience found that social isolation disrupts the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for rational thought, emotional regulation, and decision-making. The longer the isolation, the more that region quiets down. You become more reactive, more impulsive, more likely to spiral. Things that would have bounced off you before now stick. A small setback feels catastrophic. A critical thought loops for hours. You are not weak. Your brain's braking system has been compromised, and you didn't even notice it happening. There is something else that begins to occur, something that rarely gets talked about. When your brain is deprived of social input for long enough, it starts generating its own. You begin having conversations in your head, intense ones, replaying past interactions, rehearsing future ones, imagining arguments, imagining apologies. You become the only voice in the room, and over time, that voice starts to sound like truth. Psychologist Matthew Lieberman, a leading researcher in social neuroscience at UCLA, found that the human brain has a dedicated network, the default mode network that activates specifically during social thinking. When there are no real people to process, that network doesn't go dormant. It turns inward. It starts processing you. And without outside reality to check against, your internal narrative can become distorted in ways you won't even recognize until someone finally says something that breaks the spell. But here is the twist. Not all withdrawal is the same. There is a difference between isolation and solitude. Isolation is the absence of connection. Solitude is chosen, purposeful aloneness. One depletes you, the other restores you. The distinction lies in perceived control. When you feel like you could reach out but choose not to, your nervous system remains regulated. When you feel like you can't reach out, when you believe no one would understand, or that you're too much, or that it's simply too late, that's when the damage begins. And that's the invisible line that so many people cross without realizing it. What started as needing space becomes believing you don't deserve to take up space at all. So what do you do with this? The path back is not dramatic. It doesn't require a breakthrough conversation or a tearful phone call. Research shows that even brief, low-stakes interactions, a short text, a comment on something someone said, a minute-long check-in are enough to begin reversing the cortisol spike and quieting the threat response. Your brain doesn't need a deep connection to begin healing. It needs a signal. A signal that you are still part of something, that the tribe hasn't moved on without you, that you are still seen. Start with one message, not a long one, not an explanation, just a reach. Because the part of your brain that has been working overtime, scanning for danger, replaying old conversations, and convincing you that silence is safer, that part is waiting for exactly this moment.